Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Okay, so we are back to, I guess, like normal style videos. I am gonna miss doing Halloween videos, but I'm also kind of excited to get back to like teaching different things and not having to do like big Halloween style projects. So what I wanna do is answer a question you guys ask me all the time, and it's questions about top coating. So what I want to do is actually two different styles of top coat. Well, the top coat will kind of be the same, but the way I do it is a little bit different. So I kind of want to show you guys the two different ways that I will top coat something. So if you guys are interested to see like some tips and tricks and my methods on how I top coat stuff, then continue watching. So I have two different sets of coasters here. One is like this geode style. These are actually the skeleton leaf coasters, and I want to top coat them, but I want to show you guys how I'm going to top coat these because they do have like jagged edges. So I think it'll be really interesting to see and show you guys how I would top coat something like this that has like really uneven and jagged edges, along with these, which are the back coasters that we also made in one of our Halloween videos. And these have like, you know, perfect round edges. So I think it'll be cool and interesting to show you guys the two different ways I would top coat something. So for the jagged edged coasters, these are the geode style coasters. I want to do the liquid latex method. So I'm going to be painting a pretty thick layer of liquid latex on the back of these coasters. And that way when we do the top coat on top, it'll have like, it'll go right to the sides. And then it'll like drip onto the back, but it won't matter. And then the next day we'll be able to pull it all off. You'll see once I show you guys. And then for the perfectly rounded edges, I want to do the tape method. So I will be taping on the very edge of these, and then we will top coat kind of the whole thing, and it'll go right up to the tape and we'll be able to peel it off. So we are going to get started. I am going to be using the CounterCultureDIY thin viscosity resin. It is one of their artist resins, and those artist resins are for top coating mostly. This resin is actually, I think it's the yellow and orange label. I will have it linked down in my description. I do have like a little section in all of my videos where it says like resin supplies used in this video, and it's in like all caps, and then underneath it I will list everything that I've used in resin. And if you don't find something that I used in that video in that list, it's probably because it's in the Amazon supply list, which is also linked down in my description. So you can usually find everything I've used down in my description. So this resin that I'll be using is down there. So the first thing we do have to do is take our liquid latex. This is actually the liquid latex that I use. I get it off of Amazon. It is the Monster liquid latex. So we will have to paint a pretty thick layer on the bottom of all of these geode coasters, and then we have to let it dry. It does take a while to dry because it's such a thick layer of liquid latex. But what I have been doing with this is either using a hair dryer or like one of my heat guns, but on like a very low setting of heat, like no heat, just kind of air. So I would recommend like a hair dryer to dry the layer of liquid latex on the back, just to kind of like speed that up because it takes forever. So we're gonna go over to my desk now and paint a layer of the liquid latex on the back of these geode coasters. And then once that's dry, we'll be able to mix up some resin and do the top coat. So we're gonna get started. Okay, so our top coats are done and they're perfect and pretty and glossy. So I did end up doing these coasters instead of like the Halloween bat coasters. I just saw these on my desk and I was like, glitter. I want to put glitter. And I thought that glitter might not look that great on the bat ones. So I ended up doing these instead. So as you guys saw, I did kind of like take the liquid latex off the back of these ones with you guys and also take the tape off of these. Both are pretty satisfying. I definitely prefer doing it this way with the liquid latex because the top coat can go right over the edge, protect the entire edge and not have to have like a little sliver of the coaster that isn't covered in top coat. So it goes right to the very edge on the bottom and it's just a perfect coating. But the reason that I sometimes do the tape method is just because it's faster and it's easy. So if I ever need to like quickly top coat something, you know, you don't really notice that like little tiny sliver where the tape was on these. So I'll do the tape method when I have like a really smooth edge and also I need to top coat it kind of quickly. But definitely for stuff like this that has like a jagged edge and I have time to do the liquid latex thing, like I ended up leaving the liquid latex on these overnight because it just wasn't drying. And you have to have a thick layer, like it's all kind of clumped up here now, but you have to have a thick layer of liquid latex when you use this kind of method for top coating, because when I first tried doing the liquid latex method for top coats, I didn't do a thick enough layer on the back. So when I went to peel it off the next day, the top coat was just too strong and the liquid latex was too thin, so it would rip and it just wasn't working. So I had those little blobs of resin top coat on the back of the piece just because the liquid latex wasn't strong enough and thick enough to be able to pull it all off. So you kind of have to have a really thick layer of liquid latex, and so since it's thick, it does take a while to fully dry. So I do also want to talk a little bit about the kinds of resins that you would use to top coat something. I use CounterCultureDIY resins, but you obviously don't have to use the same resin brand as me. So the resins that you will want to use to top coat something are usually pretty thick. They don't have to be like gloppy thick, but they are thicker just because when you're top coating something, you want it to be like, you know, kind of a doming, very glossy, thick kind of coat. But they're also thick because they're going to cure pretty hard because, you know, when you're top coating something, you're doing it to protect your art. So that protective seal needs to be thick and usually glossy because glossy will also enhance your artwork. So it'll be thick, it'll be glossy, and it'll cure pretty hard to protect everything. Even if you're not using CounterCultureDIY resins, which again, you totally don't have to, there are different kinds of resins. So if you're buying from a different brand, maybe look through all the resins and kind of see the different types, their cure times definitely, and what hardness they cure to as well. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys some close-up clips now, and then after that I'm going to answer some questions because I did put up a poll on my Instagram asking you guys if you had any questions about top coating. So here are some close-up shots, and then when we come back we'll answer some questions. Okay, so really quick, the glitter on these coasters is actual perfection. Like, please stop it right now. I love these. And then I also love the skeleton leaf coasters. I feel like the doming on this is just perfect. So pretty. So now we're going to answer some questions about top coating. So like I said, I did put a poll or like a little question box on my Instagram really quick just to see if you guys had any like last second questions that you wanted me to answer for you guys. So I got quite a few questions about sanding a piece before I top coat it. And as you guys saw in this tutorial, I kind of don't sand anything before I top coat anymore. I used to, just to get like a very flat, perfect surface. And you can do that. So if you have a mold that kind of like is a little bit wonky, sometimes molds, especially ones from Amazon, can kind of warp a little bit or get stretched. So when you make a piece with it, it can be kind of bumpy and uneven. So you can sand it to be like a very flat, perfect surface, and then you can top coat. So to answer some of the questions, because some people said, do you have to sand before you top coat? And you absolutely do not. I don't, but you can if you want to get like a perfect surface. Also, the tape that I use is it's kind of like all messed up now, but it is the blue painter's tape. It says blue Scotch platinum tape. I do use this. It is quite plasticky, so it's not my favorite. I used to use the green painter's tape, I believe, and I really liked that one, but I still use this blue one just because I have it. There were a few people asking how I do the sides of a piece, and it's all just one pour of top coat over the top, and then it goes over the sides. So I don't ever like top coat the very top and then the sides at a separate time. It's all just one pour, and it kind of goes over the sides no matter if I'm doing tape or if I'm doing the liquid latex method. It still just goes over the sides, so it's one pour. I also got a few questions about how you would kind of top coat or make like a sphere or a cube shiny. And I would definitely recommend sanding and polishing a piece like that, because I really don't think that you can top coat, like with resin, a sphere especially, because there will always be a point where the resin will kind of drip to a point. So I think that for spheres and cubes, you would have to sand and polish those pieces. I cannot get polishing. I've tried different things. I'm still working on how to do it, because I definitely want to show you guys how to make a sphere and then polish it, but I have not figured out how polishing works yet. So I'm working on it. I don't know how that works yet, but I would definitely recommend trying to figure out how to polish pieces like that. Someone also asked if you use a heat gun to pop the bubbles in a top coat. So the only time I ever really use a heat gun is if there's a silicone mold involved, and that's because I don't want the heat from like a torch to burn and melt the mold and melt it to like kind of fuse with the resin, and that's where you tear molds. So when I'm working with a piece, like if I'm casting something in a silicone mold, I will usually use a heat gun instead of a torch. But when you're top coating, there's, you know, obviously no silicone mold involved, so you can use a torch for that. And there were also a few people that asked why there are so many bubbles in their top coat and why their heat gun can't pop them. And like I said, it's because top coating resins are thicker than other kinds of resins, like casting resins or anything like that. So you do have to use a higher heat tool to pop those bubbles. And also it's easier to get micro bubbles in a top coat because the resin is so thick. So when you're mixing up like a top coating resin, it's going to be thicker. So you definitely want to be mixing slow, be patient with it, and also kind of heat it up in some way. I point my heat gun at it to warm it up as I'm mixing it. Some people do like a warm bath. I find that to be kind of messy, especially compared to pointing my heat gun while I'm mixing it. So I don't do the bath kind of thing, but I do recommend using a heat gun on like a low setting to warm up the resin and kind of mixing slow and patient. You don't have to like, you know, go turtle style, go super slow, but definitely don't like whip it around or anything. So those things might help for micro bubbles, but it is a lot easier to get micro bubbles in top coat because it's so thick. The last question I'm going to answer is, do you have to top coat your pieces? And you absolutely do not. I feel like it might seem like you are supposed to top coat all of your work. You don't have to. If you like the way that it looks without the top coat, that's totally fine. It's your art, and you know, you can kind of keep it however you want to keep it, however you find it looks best. But I like to top coat things, especially coasters, because when I'm making coasters like this or casting anything like this, I'm using a casting resin, which is a softer cure. If you top coat it with like a harder curing resin, then that'll make sure it doesn't like stick to anything, and it's not a soft curing resin like the casting resin was. So you don't have to top coat things. It's totally up to you and however you want to finish off your pieces. If you don't want to, you totally don't have to. Okay, you guys, I thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that this video helped you in top coating, and I hope that I answered some of your questions for it. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and follow me on Instagram. It is @Artsymadwoman. I love you guys to absolute death, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye. I don't even know anymore. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I feel like that was way too much eye contact. Oh my god, you guys, somebody recently in the comments had the audacity to ask me to stop singing and dancing in my videos. Can you believe that? Absolutely not, absolutely not. I will answer that right here, absolutely never. For the jagged edged coachers. So for the jagged edged coast, that was so much talking. Once that is dry, we will mix up some resin and kind of just like do the top coat, just kind of like, you know, blobs of, wait, what am I saying? Laura, what's it called when you would like buff something to make it shiny?
I think that's just called buffing.
There's a word for it and I can't think of it. Like to sand something and then, what would you do to shine a shoe or something? What is that?
Polish?
Polish, thank you. Polish, thank you. Yes, I literally just left to ask what the word was. So it's fine. Sometimes you have brain farts, and that's okay.